Welcome to tonight's quiet lecture. Please make yourself comfortable, maybe even sit in your favorite chair, because in the next few moments, we'll drift together through water's endless journey, a calming tale of rivers, rain, and time itself. A story that flows gently from cloud to ocean and back again, carrying you softly towards sleep. The night is quiet, and the world seems to hold its breath. Far above, stars shimmer like scattered drops of light, and somewhere, deep in the clouds, a single droplet begins to form. You close your eyes and let your imagination drift. Tonight, you are not standing still. You are traveling with water, through skies and stones, through centuries and silence. Each chapter is a step in a journey older than memory itself. Listen carefully. The wind carries whispers of oceans. The earth hums beneath your feet. Somewhere, a droplet trembles, ready to fall. This is not just a story of water. It's the story of connection, of cycles, of the quiet heartbeat that moves through everything. And now, the journey begins. High above the ground, the sky is a soft shade of grey, neither stormy nor bright. It breathes slowly, like a living thing. Inside one of its quiet clouds, a change begins. The air cools, water vapor gathers, invisible particles clinging together in delicate clusters. They swirl and dance in the hidden heart of the cloud, like tiny thoughts forming in a vast, dreaming mind. In the center of this gentle gathering, a single droplet is born. It's small at first, weightless, nearly nothing, but with each passing second, it collects more moisture, growing heavier, rounder, clearer. It reflects a tiny universe within its curved surface, a mirror of light and air. For a moment, it trembles, suspended in the cradle of the cloud, and then, with a soft release, it lets go. You follow the droplet as it begins its fall. The air around it is cool and damp. At first, the descent is slow, like a leaf drifting down a still pond. But gravity, ever patient and steady, draws it closer to earth. The droplet meets pockets of air, currents of wind, small invisible dances that tug it this way and that. It is no longer just a particle. It is part of a journey that began long before this moment and will continue long after. As it falls, it passes through layers of atmosphere that shift in temperature and pressure. Sometimes the droplet cools further, sometimes it meets warmer air and lingers in its form. If you could look closely, you would see molecules within it vibrating with energy, holding each other in a fragile balance between liquid and vapor. The fall is silent, but if silence had texture, it would feel like silk, smooth, weightless, endless. Below, the landscape waits. The earth is quiet, listening. Perhaps it's a forest with damp moss and whispering leaves. Perhaps it's a field of golden grass bending gently in the breeze. Or perhaps it's the edge of a rocky cliff overlooking a restless sea. The droplet doesn't choose. Gravity decides. You float alongside it, watching as the world grows closer. The colors sharpen, greens, browns, deep blues. The smell of wet earth rises even before the drop lands, as if the soil remembers the rain and anticipates its return. This scent, called petrichor, is made by tiny compounds released from plants and soil when water arrives after a dry spell. It's the earth's quiet sigh of relief, a signal to roots and seeds. Life is returning. At last, the droplet touches down. It lands softly on a single leaf, spreading across the surface like a delicate lens. For a moment, it rests there, glimmering. A breeze comes, and the drop slides down the leaf's edge, joining others to form a thin, winding stream that trickles toward the ground. Gravity, again, is the unseen hand guiding every movement. Once on the soil, the drop faces new possibilities. It might seep down between grains of sand, slipping into hidden spaces underground. It might join other droplets to form a puddle, reflecting the grey sky like a tiny mirror. Or it might be drawn back upward by the warmth of the sun, evaporating before it even begins to sink. Each path is part of the same great cycle, a cycle older than mountains, older than rivers, older even than the first breath of life. Imagine time unfolding not in years, but in droplets. Each one falls, travels, rises again, becoming cloud, rain, river, sea. The drop you follow today might once have been part of an ancient ocean where strange creatures swam. It might have rested in an underground aquifer for centuries, cradled in darkness. It might have fallen on a glacier 1,000 years ago, frozen in silence until the sun called it back. Water is the great traveler, carrying memories without words. You follow as the drop sinks gently into the soil. Tiny spaces between grains welcome it. Roots reach out like quiet hands, drawing it inward. Some of it moves deeper, joining the slow underground rivers that few eyes ever see. Some of it lingers near the surface, waiting to rise again. The movement is invisible but constant, like a pulse beneath the ground. Far above, more droplets are forming. Clouds drift, carried by winds that cross oceans and mountains. They gather moisture like secrets, holding it until just the right moment. And somewhere in that soft grey sky, another droplet trembles, ready to fall. You pause for a moment, sensing the vastness of the story. This single drop is not alone. It is part of a rhythm that has continued for billions of years. A rhythm that shapes landscapes, feeds forests, sculpts rivers, and cradles life. Every stream, every lake, every ocean begins not with a roar, but with moments like this, a single drop letting go.
The earth drinks, the cycle breathes, you breathe with it.
As the drop disappears beneath the surface, you feel a quiet question forming, like a ripple spreading across still water. If one drop can begin such a journey, what happens when many join together? When trickles become streams, and streams become something vast? The answer lies ahead, waiting in the places where water gathers. The droplet rests for a breathless moment on a green blade of grass. Light bends through its clear surface, splitting into tiny rainbows that shimmer against the quiet sky. Gravity whispers again, and the droplet rolls gently down the blade's edge. It gathers speed, not like a rushing river, but like a bead of light tracing a soft curve. When it reaches the tip, it lets go. It lands with a delicate sound, too soft for ears, more like a feeling, the earth's first touch. The soil accepts it without hesitation. Tiny grains part, and the droplet slips between them, vanishing from sight, but not from the story you follow, sinking with it into the cool darkness below the surface. The world beneath your feet is alive in ways the eye rarely sees. The soil is not silent, it breathes. Between grains of sand and fragments of stone lie narrow pathways where air and water move in slow, intricate dances. Roots weave through like veins, carrying life deeper. Fungi spread in delicate threads, linking plant to plant in silent conversation. Tiny organisms, some too small to imagine, stir and swim, living entire lives in spaces no wider than a strand of hair. The droplet moves among them like a quiet traveler. Its path is not straight, but winding, shaped by the tiny architecture of the earth. It encounters pockets of air, slides past roots, brushes against mineral surfaces that glimmer faintly in the filtered light. Each contact is an exchange. Some minerals dissolve slightly, lending their elements to the water. Calcium, magnesium, iron, invisible companions that the droplet carries onward. Over time, this is how rivers taste of stone, how underground springs gain their subtle flavor. You drift alongside it, noticing how the soil holds the water with gentle strength. Capillary forces, the invisible pull between liquid and solid, guide the droplet deeper, drawing it down narrow passages that seem too tight to pass, but the water finds a way. It always does. It bends and stretches, slipping through spaces where light cannot follow. Above, the world grows quieter. The wind is muffled. Footsteps fade. Time slows. Down here, water moves at the pace of patience. Some droplets will remain in the upper soil for days, nourishing roots and feeding the unseen network of life. Others, like the one you follow, will journey deeper, pulled by gravity and the silent invitation of porous rock. The descent continues through layers of soil, each with its own texture and story. The topsoil is soft, rich with organic life. Deeper layers become denser, holding fewer roots and more stone. As the droplet moves downward, the temperature shifts subtly, cooler, steadier, untouched by the fleeting moods of weather above. This is the realm where time feels different, where movement is measured not in seconds, but in seasons, sometimes centuries. You reach a layer where small pebbles are packed together like a mosaic. Here, the droplet pauses. It doesn't stop entirely, but its pace slows to a thoughtful crawl. It finds tiny crevices, winding through like a thread through fabric. Some droplets may remain here for months, locked in a quiet exchange with minerals, changing and being changed. Others may be drawn deeper still, joining hidden aquifers that run like veins through the rock. The droplet continues, finding its way between pebbles until the soil becomes coarse sand. In this layer, water flows more freely. The droplet joins a slow-moving current of other droplets, each on its own journey, yet now moving together like travelers sharing a path. The flow is too gentle to be called a stream, more like a whispered migration, guided by the slope of the land and the pull of gravity. As you follow, you notice how the underground world feels timeless. There is no wind, no rush, no hurry, just the steady persistence of water finding its place. Over thousands of years, these gentle flows carve unseen paths, shaping landscapes in ways that are rarely noticed from above. Caverns widen, minerals dissolve and reform. Springs gather strength far away from where the first drop touched the soil. Here, water and earth begin a long conversation. The droplet carries dissolved minerals, and the rock, in return, shapes its path. This is where groundwater forms, the hidden rivers beneath the surface. Some of these flows will feed wells and springs. Some will emerge miles away, appearing suddenly as clear streams at the foot of mountains. Others will linger underground for centuries, part of a vast, quiet reservoir that sustains life in ways few ever witness. The droplet joins a larger underground trickle, moving with others through a network of sandy channels. The air above is far away now, and the only light is imagined. But the journey is not lonely. Around the droplet, microscopic life thrives in the dark. Bacteria that transform minerals, tiny creatures that ride the currents, silent ecosystems that rely on the constant presence of water. The droplet nourishes them as it passes, leaving subtle traces of itself behind. The path curves gently, turning toward a deeper layer. Here, the soil gives way to porous rock, an aquifer. Imagine a sponge the size of a continent, filled with water slowly weaving through every pore. The droplet seeps into this stone labyrinth, where it may remain for years or centuries, depending on the whims of geology and time. In this quiet place, patience reigns. The droplet has no destination, only movement. Its role is not to rush, but to join, to seep, to become part of something larger and older than any surface stream. You breathe slowly, matching the rhythm of the earth. Above ground, rain may fall and rivers may surge, but down here, time moves like a deep breath held between heartbeats. Somewhere far ahead, the trickles will gather strength. They will find channels, merge into underground streams, and eventually, perhaps, emerge again into the open world. But for now, the droplet rests within stone, listening to the earth's slow song. You rise slowly from the quiet underground, following the droplet's journey as it moves through hidden veins of stone and sand. Ahead, faint light filters down through cracks in the earth, a soft reminder of the world above. The droplet joins others, gathering strength, until the trickle becomes a thread, the thread becomes a stream, and the stream begins to hum with purpose. Breaking through the surface, water emerges from a spring, a clear, gentle flow spilling into daylight as if exhaling after a long sleep. You step beside it, feeling cool air rising from its surface. It winds through grass and moss, catching sunlight on its ripples. The stream moves not with haste, but with a quiet determination, as though remembering exactly where it wants to go. You walk along its bank as it grows, fed by other springs, tiny brooks, and the lingering tears of rain. Together, they braid into a river, a living thread stitched through the landscape. From above, the river would look like silver silk laid across green cloth, its curves telling stories the land itself has shaped. Rivers are sculptors. Over centuries, even millennia, they carve valleys and shape plains with patience that no hand can match. A single droplet may seem small, but together, countless droplets have moved mountains, grain by grain. They carry sediment, fragments of stone worn down by wind and weather, and as they flow, they deposit these particles downstream. Sandbars form, riverbanks shift, islands rise and dissolve. This movement is slow, often invisible in a single lifetime, but over ages it redraws the map of the world. You kneel at the water's edge and watch silt swirl in slow spirals. These tiny grains were once part of distant peaks. Some may have travelled hundreds of kilometres. Others were lifted from the soil just upstream. Each one carries a story of glaciers grinding rock, of rain striking cliffs, of landslides and floods. The river remembers all of it, not in words, but in its shape, its flow, its layered beds of sediment beneath your feet. Listen closely. The river has a rhythm like breathing. In spring, snowmelt swells its body and the current quickens, carrying new memories into its depths. In summer, the flow softens, meandering lazily through fields of wildflowers. In autumn, rains return and stir it awake again. In winter, ice may still its surface, but beneath, water continues its patient motion. Even in silence, the river remembers. As you follow its winding path, you notice how rivers shape not only land, but life. Along its banks, trees lean toward the water, their roots drinking from the hidden reserves below. Birds trace invisible highways above its course, following its direction year after year. Animals gather at its edges to drink. Fish swim upstream, guided by ancient instincts, repeating journeys their ancestors made for countless generations. Entire ecosystems bloom around this moving thread of water. Every bend tells a story. A sharp curve may mark a place where the river once flooded, carving a new path. A wide meander speaks of slower years, when the current wandered back and forth, like a painter brushing broad strokes across a canvas. Sometimes, when a river loops so far it almost meets itself, it may eventually cut through, leaving behind a crescent-shaped oxbow lake, a quiet reminder of the river's former path. These shapes linger for centuries, like echoes in the land. You come upon a place where the river meets rock, a canyon wall rising steep and ancient. Here, the water's patience is on display. Over thousands, even millions of years, it has worn a deep passage through solid stone, grain by grain, drop by drop. Stand still long enough, and you can almost feel time stretch. The canyon isn't carved by force alone, but by persistence, the quiet, unstoppable memory of flowing water. The river carries more than sediment. It carries whispers of climate, of history, of human touch. Settlements rise near its banks. People build bridges across it, canals beside it, dams within it. For centuries, rivers have been lifelines for civilizations, offering water to drink, soil to farm, and paths to travel. And yet, despite human marks, the river continues its own story. Long after bridges crumble and cities fade, the water will still flow, reshaping the land in its ancient rhythm. You place your hand in the river. It's cool, alive. The current slips past your fingers, carrying particles from places you may never see. Perhaps a leaf from a distant forest. Perhaps a grain of sand that was once part of a mountain peak now worn to dust. Perhaps the memory of a storm long past. The water is always moving, always remembering. As you walk further, the landscape opens wide. Plains stretch to the horizon, and the river threads through them, wide and shining. Sunlight scatters across its surface, breaking into thousands of glints that seem to flicker like stars on water. You can sense the quiet power beneath this surface. Calm, a strength built not on speed, but on continuity. This river has flowed through drought and flood, through ice ages and warm periods. It has seen forests rise and fall, animals come and go, climates shift and return. You pause at a high bank, looking down at the river curling far below like a sleeping serpent. The air smells faintly of wet earth and distant rain. In that moment, the river seems less like water and more like time itself, always moving forward, yet looping and bending, shaping everything it touches without ever needing to hurry. Rivers are archives. Their sediments settle in layers like pages, recording floods, droughts, volcanic ash, ancient pollen. Scientists read these layers to uncover the history of climates and landscapes long gone. But standing here, you don't need instruments to feel the story. You can sense it in the way the river moves, in its curves and murmurs, in the way it gathers everything and forgets nothing. As the sun lowers toward the horizon, the river's surface turns gold. Shadows stretch across the valley. You keep walking, matching your pace to the gentle current. The sound of flowing water becomes a lullaby, ancient and familiar. The droplet you followed may be somewhere within this river now, part of its flow, mingled with countless others, indistinguishable yet essential. Together, they move toward a distant end that is also a beginning. Ahead, the river widens. You can feel a faint pull in the air, a sense that something vast is waiting. Perhaps an estuary where river and sea meet. Perhaps a delta where waters spread like a hand into the ocean. The river remembers where it has been. Now it reaches forward toward where it must go. The river's voice softens as you follow its winding path into a wide, gentle basin. Here, the land dips low, cradling water in its hollowed arms. The current slows, spreads, and finally comes to rest. Before you stretches a lake, its surface smooth as polished stone, reflecting the sky so perfectly that it's hard to tell where air ends and water begins. Clouds drift overhead and below, mirrored in a tranquil symmetry that makes you pause, caught between worlds. Lakes are places of stillness, but not of silence. They are moments in water's journey where movement pauses just enough to let the landscape breathe. Some lakes are born from ancient glaciers, their immense weight carving deep valleys that later fill with meltwater. Others form from volcanic craters, landslides, or the patient meandering of rivers that choose to linger. However they are made, lakes become mirrors, not just for the sky, but for everything around them. You walk to the water's edge and crouch down. The surface is so calm that your reflection appears beside drifting clouds, as if you, too, are part of the sky. A soft breeze brushes across the lake, sending faint ripples outward in delicate circles. Each ripple bends the reflection slightly, as though the lake is gently stirring its memories. Beneath the surface, life is quietly thriving. Layers of water stack like invisible blankets, each with its own temperature, its own rhythm. The upper layer warms under the sun, alive with drifting plankton and tiny insects that skate like dancers on the water's skin. Below, cooler layers remain untouched by the day's heat, holding nutrients and stories from the depths. This layering, called stratification, creates distinct habitats, each supporting different lives, all existing in silent cooperation. Fish glide through this world with effortless grace, their movements sending brief flashes of silver. Some rise to the surface to feed, creating tiny ripples that vanish almost as soon as they appear. Others linger in the shadows near underwater plants, where light filters down like green rain. In the soft mud at the bottom, microorganisms work unseen, breaking down organic matter and cycling nutrients back into the lake's quiet rhythm. Lakes collect not only water, but time. Sediments drift slowly down to the lake bed, layering like pages in an ancient book. Each layer holds pollen, volcanic ash, minerals, and traces of life, tiny clues about the climate and landscape of centuries past. Scientists can read these layers the way you might read tree rings, uncovering stories of shifting seasons, changing forests, and ancient winds that once carried dust across distant lands. You trail your fingers through the water. It's cool, almost still, but you can feel subtle movements beneath, the gentle push and pull of invisible currents. Even lakes that seem motionless are constantly in conversation with their surroundings. Rain enters from above. Streams feed from the sides. Evaporation lifts water skyward again. Some lakes leak slowly into the ground, rejoining underground flows. Others feed rivers that continue onward toward the sea. Stillness. Here is only a pause, not a destination. You look up. The sky has deepened into late afternoon. The sun drapes gold across the water's surface, and the lake turns into a vast, glowing mirror. Birds glide overhead, their reflections following them like shadows in another world. A heron stands at the shoreline, still as a statue, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Somewhere across the lake, a fish leaps briefly into the air, catching a glint of light before disappearing again. Lakes influence the land around them in quiet but powerful ways. Their presence moderates temperatures, cooling the air in summer and holding warmth in winter. They store fresh water, nourish wetlands, and create habitats where countless species coexist. For communities, human and non-human alike, they are sources of sustenance, shelter, and reflection. Ancient settlements often grew near lakes, drawn by their abundance and calm. Stories, songs, and myths gathered like ripples along their shores. As evening settles, the wind calms completely. The surface becomes perfectly still, a flawless mirror of twilight. You can see stars begin to appear, not just above, but below, scattered across the lake's darkening surface. It feels as if you're standing on the edge of two skies, one real and one reflected, joined in quiet conversation. The air is cool, fragrant with the scent of wet soil and distant pine. You sit down at the edge, letting your thoughts drift like leaves on the water. The lake seems timeless, but you know it too is part of a journey. Over centuries, sediments may slowly fill it in. Vegetation may creep inward, turning open water into marshland. Eventually, even the deepest lakes can become meadows, then forests, as the cycle of land and water continues. Its patient turning lakes are not permanent. They are pauses in the long story of movement. As darkness deepens, The lake reflects a perfect night sky. You hear frogs singing from the reeds, insects buzzing softly in the air, and the occasional ripple that breaks the surface like a whispered secret. Everything here is slow, deliberate, balanced. The droplet you followed may be somewhere in this lake now, mingled with countless others, resting briefly before it continues onward. Perhaps tomorrow it will rise into the air again as mist. Perhaps it will slip into an outlet stream and return to the river's flowing song. For now, it rests beneath the mirrored surface, part of the stillness. You follow the water as it slips from the lake's far edge, a quiet stream widening into a river once more. It moves with renewed purpose now, as though sensing the vastness that lies ahead. For miles, it winds through fields and marshes, gathering tributaries and rainwater until its voice deepens into a steady, rolling current. The air grows damp and carries a faint tang of salt, subtle at first, then unmistakable. You are nearing the place where fresh water meets the sea. The river begins to widen, its banks spreading apart like arms opening to embrace something greater. The landscape shifts. Marsh grasses grow tall and dense, swaying gently in the breeze. Birds circle overhead, herons, gulls, and sandpipers, drawn to the rich meeting of worlds beneath the surface. Fresh water mixes with salt, forming brackish currents that swirl like ribbons. This is an estuary, a threshold between two realms, where rivers loosen their grip and the ocean reaches inward. The current slows as the river merges with the tide. You feel the subtle tug beneath your feet as water begins to flow both ways, outward to the sea and inward with the rising tide. Tiny fish dart in shimmering schools, feeding where nutrients gather. Crabs scuttle sideways across mudflats. Reeds and mangroves cradle nests for birds and nurseries for marine life. Estuaries are places of abundance, alive with the pulse of two waters meeting. You walk along the bank until the land opens fully, and there it is, the ocean. A vast, endless expanse stretches beyond the horizon, so wide it seems to hold the sky itself. The surface glimmers with shifting light, every wave catching the sun like moving glass. The air is filled with the rhythmic sound of surf, not a single note, but a layered symphony of crashes, whispers, and echoes. It's the sound of breath, ancient and alive. You step closer, onto sand still warm from the day's sun. The first wave slides forward, foamy and white, reaching delicately toward your toes. When it touches, it retreats just as gently, leaving behind a thin, shining film that mirrors the sky. The next wave comes a little farther, and the next, until you are standing ankle deep in cool, salty water. Each pulse feels like a heartbeat against the shore. The ocean moves with tides, great inhalations and exhalations orchestrated by the moon's quiet pull. As the moon circles the earth, its gravity tugs at the ocean's surface, drawing the water toward it. The earth rotates beneath this invisible bulge of water, creating the rhythmic rise and fall we call tides. Twice each day, the sea stretches inward, then exhales again toward its depths, as if the planet itself is breathing through water. Waves, too, have their own language. Some are born from distant storms, traveling thousands of kilometers across open sea before reaching this shore. Others form close by, stirred by local winds. As they approach shallow water, their energy compresses, lifting them upward until they fold and break, releasing their power in white foam. You watch wave after wave arrive, each different, each part of the same continuous motion. The ocean is never truly still. Beneath the surface, vast currents flow like underwater rivers, driven by winds, temperature differences, and the rotation of the earth. Warm water travels toward the poles. Cold water sinks and moves toward the equator. This global circulation, sometimes called the ocean's conveyor belt, redistributes heat, shapes climates, and connects distant corners of the world. A single droplet here could one day find itself beneath Arctic ice, then centuries later drift in tropical seas. You imagine the droplet you followed from cloud to soil to stream, river and lake, now entering this immense body. It dissolves into the briny vastness, indistinguishable among trillions of others. Yet it still moves, still travels. Perhaps it is caught in a surface current, swirling near the shore. Perhaps it will be drawn into the deep ocean, where light never reaches, and time moves at the pace of centuries. You walk along the shoreline as the tide continues to rise. The wet sand beneath your feet holds each step for a moment before the waves erase it. Seashells lie scattered like quiet echoes, each one the work of a small creature, each shaped by the chemistry of seawater and time. Some are spiraled like galaxies, others smooth as pebbles. Picking one up, you feel its delicate weight, the imprint of a life lived beneath the waves. The ocean holds life in staggering abundance. Microscopic plankton drift in sunlit waters, forming the base of entire ecosystems. Schools of fish shimmer like living mirrors. Dolphins arc gracefully through waves. Whales sing deep songs that travel for hundreds of miles. Coral reefs bloom with colors more vivid than any painting. All of it depends on the ocean's breath, the movement of water, nutrients, and light. But the ocean is also a keeper of memory. It remembers the pull of ancient tides, the dance of continents, the rhythms of ice ages. Its depths hold layers of sediment that record the history of Earth's climate. Its surface responds to winds and storms, mirroring the moods of the sky. In every wave that breaks, there is both the present moment and echoes of deep time. Night begins to fall. The horizon glows faintly as the last light sinks into the sea. The moon rises, pale and luminous, casting a silver path across the darkening water. The waves catch the light and send it back in pieces, like scattered stars. Standing at the shore, you can feel the rhythm of the tide tugging gently at your ankles, as if inviting you to breathe with it. The smell of salt fills the air, sharp, clean, alive. The ocean breeze carries with it the taste of distance, as if you can sense lands beyond the horizon. Out there, far from shore, storms brew and currents swirl, unseen but constant. The sea connects continents, climates, and lives. Its breath reaches every corner of the planet. You close your eyes and listen. Waves roll in, one after another, each slightly different, each part of a timeless pattern. It's easy to lose track of time here. The ocean does not measure moments in minutes or hours, but in tides and seasons, in the drift of currents and the slow, deep turning of the planet. Somewhere beyond the horizon lies the deep ocean, vast, cold, and dark. It is a place few have seen, yet it shapes the world above. Currents rise from its depths, bringing nutrients that feed life near the surface. Vast gyres spin slowly, holding floating debris and plankton alike. The droplet you've followed may be pulled there, sinking into a realm where light fades and pressure builds, beginning a new chapter in its journey. The ocean's breath continues, steady and endless. Each wave that reaches the shore is part of a motion older than mountains, older than memory. And as you stand here, toes in the sand, you are part of that rhythm too, breathing in time with the sea. The moment you step off the shore and sink beneath the surface, the world transforms. Light bends and dances through rippling water, painting wavering patterns across your skin. Above, the sky breaks into shards, a glittering mosaic that grows dimmer as you drift deeper. The sounds of the world fade. The roar of waves softens into a muffled hum, as if the ocean has drawn a thick, blue curtain between you and everything you left behind. Down here, time feels slower. Every movement lingers, trailing like smoke. Tiny bubbles float upward in delicate spirals, each one catching the last flickers of sunlight before vanishing into the ceiling of the sea. You are weightless now, neither standing nor falling, just drifting, as if the water has gently folded you into its embrace. As you descend further, the light begins to fade. The blue deepens, shifting from sky-bright turquoise to something more ancient, more mysterious. It is like moving through the layers of a dream. In the shallows, fish glide through shafts of light, their scales flashing like coins scattered on the ocean floor. Seagrasses sway in a rhythm older than language, bending and straightening with the pulse of the tides. But beneath this tranquil scene lies a hidden world of motion. The ocean is not still, it breathes. Beneath the surface, powerful rivers flow where no eyes can see. They are invisible highways of water, currents that carry warmth, salt, and life across the globe. You can't see them, but you can feel their touch, a subtle pull brushing against your skin. These currents are steady and patient, like the hands of time reshaping the world, grain by grain. Imagine the Gulf Stream, a vast ribbon of warm water that begins in the Gulf of Mexico and stretches across the Atlantic like a living artery. It delivers heat to distant coasts, softening winters in lands that would otherwise freeze. Without it, Europe's shores would be colder, harsher, less alive. This is just one current among many, some near the surface, some plunging deep, tracing paths that take centuries to complete. As you float, you sense layers forming around you. Near the top, the sunlit waters are warm and bustling with life. Below that lies a quieter, colder layer, the thermocline, where temperatures drop suddenly, like stepping through an unseen doorway. Descend further still, and you enter the deep ocean, where darkness reigns and the water moves slowly, with the weight of ages. In this twilight zone, creatures have adapted to the dim. Transparent jellyfish pulse softly, their bodies glowing like lanterns in the night. Tiny plankton drift in vast numbers, their silent migration guiding the rhythms of the sea. Schools of silverfish pass like living mirrors, flashing in unison as if responding to an unseen conductor. You feel as though you are floating through a cosmic ballet, choreographed by gravity, temperature, and time. Deeper still, the water grows colder, denser. Sunlight can no longer reach you, and yet life persists. Gigantic squid drift through the blackness with silent grace. Strange fish with glowing lures dangle light in front of their jaws, tricking prey into coming closer. Here, the ocean's undercurrents are like deep breaths, slow, quiet, and powerful. These are the global conveyor belts of the sea, moving cold water from the poles toward the equator and returning warmth in an endless, looping cycle. This circulation is called the thermohaline current, a blend of thermo, meaning heat, and haline, meaning salt. Warm, less salty water flows near the surface. Cold, salty water sinks and travels along the ocean floor. Together, these currents weave a global network, connecting every ocean into one living system. They carry nutrients to hungry regions, regulate climate, and sustain countless species that depend on their predictable flow. You imagine tracing one of these currents with your fingertip, following it as it loops around continents, dives beneath icy caps, and emerges again thousands of miles away. It is like following the veins of the earth itself. These hidden rivers are slow, often taking centuries to complete their cycles, but they shape weather, life, and coastlines. Without them, storms would rage differently, climates would shift, and the world you know would be unrecognizable. Your body begins to sway gently, caught in the subtle movement of the water. It is like lying in a cradle that rocks without end. With each passing moment, You become more aware of the ocean's vastness, not as an empty space, but as a living, breathing presence. You are suspended inside a planetary heartbeat. Every current is a pulse, every wave a breath, every swirl of plankton a whisper in the ocean's endless story. Somewhere far below, at the edges of the continental shelf, cold water begins to sink. It slides down like a waterfall in slow motion, descending into the abyss. This is where surface and deep meet, where warmth hands its journey to the cold, and the cycle continues. The ocean remembers these movements. It has been circulating for millions of years, long before human eyes ever gazed upon it. You look upward. The faint shimmer of the surface seems distant now, a distant ceiling of light. Above that ceiling, the winds blow, the sun shines, the rivers flow. Down here, in the hidden depths, the ocean quietly connects it all. It is easy to forget these invisible rivers exist, but they are always moving, always shaping the world. As you rise slowly toward the light, bubbles trail above you, like tiny messengers returning to the sky. The deeper currents fade from view, but their presence lingers in your mind, like the echo of a song you can still hear long after it ends. You break through the surface with a gentle splash. The horizon stretches endlessly, the ocean exhales, and as you float there, gazing toward distant shores, a question forms softly in the back of your mind. Where do these waters go when they meet the edge of the world? The morning arrives quietly. The horizon glows with a pale gold light, spilling across the surface of the ocean like silk unrolling. The waves stretch and yawn beneath the sun's gentle touch. Somewhere among these endless ripples, a single droplet begins to change. It feels the warmth seep through its surface, a soft pulse of energy that stirs something ancient inside it. You are with this droplet now, held within it like a breath, waiting to be released. The heat builds slowly, not harsh or hurried, but patient, like the beginning of a story that has been told countless times before. Molecules within the droplet start to move faster, brushing against one another with renewed energy. Their bonds loosen. The droplet trembles, and then, without sound or ceremony, it lets go. The water becomes vapor, an invisible traveler, and you rise with it, lifted upward on invisible currents. At first, the ascent is delicate, like being carried by warm hands. The ocean falls away beneath you, shrinking into a vast, gleaming expanse. You feel lighter than you ever have, weightless, bodiless, free. The air is warm near the surface, cradling you as you drift upward. Around you, countless other droplets join the journey, each following its own invisible path. Together, you form a silent migration skyward. As you rise, the temperature begins to change. The warmth that embraced you near the sea gives way to cooler layers of air. The sky shifts from a pale glowing blue to something wider, more expansive. Currents of air weave around you like soft ribbons, carrying vapor far from where it began. Some droplets rise straight up, others travel sideways, hitching rides on winds that sweep across oceans and continents. You are now part of the atmosphere's great dance. The air is not still. It moves in vast looping patterns, circulations that shape weather and climate. Warm air rises, cool air sinks, and winds bridge the spaces between. These movements are like the breath of the planet, slow, rhythmic, ceaseless. You drift through thermals, columns of warm air that spiral upward like invisible chimneys. Birds sometimes ride these same columns to soar effortlessly across the sky. Higher still, the pressure drops. The air grows thinner, the temperature cooler. The water vapor you travel with begins to slow, gathering with other vapor molecules. It is here, in these cooler altitudes, that clouds are born. Tiny particles, dust, salt, or pollen serve as seeds. Around these seeds, water vapor condenses, forming minuscule droplets and delicate ice crystals. They cling together, softening the air, turning invisibility into form. Slowly, a cloud begins to take shape. At first, it is faint, like a whisper in the blue. Then it blooms, swelling outward as more vapor condenses. From your vantage point, it feels like drifting into a vast, floating garden. The sunlight filters through the growing cloud, scattering into a gentle, glowing white. Shadows soften, edges blur. Everything around you is hushed, as though the sky itself is holding its breath. Inside the cloud, you float among countless other droplets, each no larger than a human hair. They bump gently against one another, merging, splitting, swirling in slow motion. The air is cool and moist, a quiet world suspended between earth and sky. There is no rush here. Clouds move at the pace of winds and thermals, their forms constantly changing. One moment, the cloud stretches thin like lace. The next, it billows upward, majestic and full. From within, you begin to notice patterns, how the shape of the cloud mirrors the invisible forces that sculpt it. Rising air pushes the cloud higher, forming towering shapes that stretch toward the sun. Horizontal winds shear its top into wisps that drift away. Gravity gently tugs at heavier droplets, while lighter ones remain suspended, cradled in turbulent eddies. It is a delicate balance, a living sculpture shaped by air, temperature, and time. You glance downward. The world below seems distant now. The ocean is a quilt of blues, stitched together by lines of foam and waves. Land appears like a soft shadow on the horizon. The journey upward has carried you far from where you began, yet you are still part of the same cycle, the same endless story. What rose from the sea is now held in the sky, waiting for its next moment of change. As sunlight continues to pour into the cloud, something subtle happens. The droplets and ice crystals within you interact with the light, bending and scattering it. Some rays reflect, others refract. Rainbows shimmer faintly at the edges of the cloud, arcs of color hiding in plain sight. Halos sometimes form around the sun, pale circles born of ice crystals high above. To someone on the ground, these displays might look like magic. Up here, you see the quiet physics behind the wonder. The cloud drifts slowly, carried by winds that stretch across continents. Some of the vapor will continue to rise, reaching altitudes where the air is thin and freezing. There, crystals grow into intricate snowflakes, each one unique, branching like tiny stars. Others will linger where you are, swirling in the moist, cool air. Still others will begin to coalesce into larger droplets, preparing for the journey downward once more. You sense the subtle shifts around you, the building weight of droplets, the gentle gathering of gravity's pull. Clouds are temporary, yet powerful. They shape the planet's climate by reflecting sunlight, trapping warmth, and distributing water. They are the sky's memory of the ocean, suspended between evaporation and rain. Without them, rivers would dry, forests would fade, and the heartbeat of the water cycle would falter. Above you, the upper reaches of the cloud stretch into the atmosphere like soft towers. They brush against layers of air that are colder still. Here, the vapor's journey may pause for moments, hours, or even days, carried silently through the sky. To the world below, the cloud may look serene, but within it, countless transformations unfold continuously. Birth, gathering, dispersal, all in quiet motion. You drift through this luminous landscape, feeling the lightness of being suspended in air. The journey upward has no sharp edges, no sudden turns. It is a steady, graceful rise, guided by heat, air, and time. You realize that you have become part of something vast yet intimate. The conversation between ocean and sky. Sunlight speaks, water listens and responds, rising to carry the message onward. As the day stretches on, the winds shift slightly, nudging the cloud along its path. The sky begins to change hues, deepening as the sun lowers. The cloud grows heavier in places, thickening where droplets gather in earnest. A subtle tension builds, a quiet promise. The droplet you travel with trembles once again, sensing its next transformation waiting somewhere ahead. Below, the land awaits. Valleys, rivers, forests, and fields lie under the drifting cloud like open hands. The moisture you carry will not stay suspended forever. Gravity will call. The cycle will continue, as it has for eons, weaving water through sky and stone, through leaf and root. You rest there for a moment, surrounded by mist and light, poised between what was and what will be. The air is cool. The cloud breathes. The world turns slowly beneath you, and somewhere, just beyond the horizon, the first hints of rain begin to gather. You find yourself suspended once more within the soft folds of a cloud. The world here is hushed and pale, a realm of drifting mist and slow, swirling motion. Light filters through in muted shades, scattering softly, like whispers through silk. Each droplet around you glimmers faintly, tiny beads of water suspended in delicate balance. There is no sharpness here, only softness, only breath. Within this quiet, the droplets move like dancers. They swirl in gentle eddies, drawn together and pulled apart in an endless waltz. Air currents within the cloud act as invisible hands, guiding them upward, sideways, and down again. Some droplets remain light enough to be held aloft by rising air. Others grow heavier, merging with their neighbors, their weight slowly gathering. This merging is not sudden. It happens in patient, tender collisions. Two droplets meet, touch, and gently fuse into one, becoming slightly larger. Then another joins, and another. With each union, they gain mass, slipping a little lower within the cloud's layered embrace. You watch as this quiet choreography unfolds on every side, like a lullaby sung not with sound, but with motion and time. The temperature here is cool, hovering near the delicate line where vapor becomes liquid. Tiny ice crystals form at the higher edges of the cloud, intricate and weightless. They grow as vapor clings to them, branching outward into star-like patterns. These crystals drift downward, brushing against super-cooled droplets, liquid water that remains unfrozen despite the cold. When they meet, the droplets freeze upon contact, adding layers of ice. This dance of freezing and merging creates snowflakes, graupel, and raindrops, each born from countless silent meetings. Somewhere in the distance, a faint rumble rolls through the cloud like a sigh. It is low, distant, almost tender. Lightning hasn't struck yet, but the air is beginning to hum with the build-up of electrical charge. Inside towering storm clouds, those vast cumulonimbus giants, tiny ice particles collide at tremendous speeds, transferring charge as they separate. Positive charges drift to the top of the cloud. Negative charges settle near the base. Slowly, the cloud becomes an enormous battery suspended in the sky. Even in this quieter cloud, you can sense echoes of that process. The air around you holds a faint tension, like the moment before music begins. The scent of rain lingers, a fresh, earthy fragrance that seeps upward from the ground below. Scientists call it petrichor, the smell of rain touching dry earth, released by oils and compounds in the soil. But to you, here in the cloud, it smells like memory, like rivers waiting, forests listening, fields anticipating their drink. The droplets around you continue their slow gathering. Some are swept upward by small updrafts, cooled further, then released again. Others linger in place, swaying gently as if listening. The cloud is not uniform. It has pockets of rising and sinking air, of warmth and chill. These contrasts give the droplets their rhythm. The cloud itself breathes in cycles, pulling vapor up, letting droplets fall, lifting them once again. It is a soft, looping heartbeat. You drift deeper into the cloud's body. The light dims slightly, thickened by the growing concentration of water. The air grows damper. You can almost hear the tiny collisions of droplets, like a whispering rain that hasn't yet touched the ground. Occasionally, a droplet brushes against you, cool and smooth, then continues on its way. It is like passing through a living fog that remembers where it came from. Up above, wisps of vapor continue to condense. Each new molecule adds to the growing weight. Clouds may seem light from below, but they carry immense volumes of water, sometimes thousands of tons, held aloft by nothing more than air currents and heat. It is a delicate balance, one that can shift with a subtle change in temperature, wind, or pressure, and when it shifts, the cloud sings its lullaby a little louder. Another rumble rolls through the sky, closer this time. A faint flash pulses somewhere far away, briefly lighting the mist around you like a lantern behind a veil. Lightning is the sky's sudden exhale, a rapid resolution of the charge that has been quietly building. Thunder follows, deep and resonant, traveling slower than the light. You feel it in your chest more than you hear it, a distant drum keeping time with the cloud's gathering song. Still, the rain does not fall. Not yet. This is the in-between moment, where everything is gathering, preparing, listening. The droplets are almost ready, their weight nearing the point where gravity will claim them. But for now, they hover in suspension, singing their silent lullaby to the earth below. You close your eyes and let yourself drift with them. The world outside the cloud has faded. There is only the cool air, the soft light, the scent of rain waiting to be born. You realize that clouds are not just passing scenery. They are living, breathing chapters of the planet's water cycle. They hold the memory of oceans and the promise of rivers. They shape weather, nourish life, and whisper across continents. Some droplets will remain aloft for hours, maybe days, carried on winds to distant lands. Others will soon surrender to gravity's pull, beginning their descent towards soil and stone. But for this moment, everything is suspended in harmony. The cloud's lullaby is gentle, but its meaning is vast. Water gathering, preparing to return. Another flash ripples faintly across the horizon, followed by a low, rolling murmur. The air grows heavier with moisture. You sense the shift beginning, a quiet turning point. The lullaby is reaching its final verse. And somewhere below, the earth lifts its face, waiting for the first drop to fall. The world shifts around you. The cloud's soft grey dissolves, and suddenly, everything is bright. Not bright with warmth, but with a clean, crystalline light that stretches endlessly. Before you lies a vast, frozen landscape. The air is crisp and sharp, carrying a silence so deep it feels almost alive. Each breath forms a pale mist that drifts upward, then disappears into the cold sky. Here, water takes on its stillest form. There are no flowing rivers, no swirling currents, no dancing droplets. Instead, there is ice, ancient, patient, immense. It blankets the land in smooth, gleaming sheets. Snow falls softly from the sky, layer upon layer, a quiet accumulation that has been happening for thousands of years. What begins as tiny frozen flakes settles into a collective weight that shapes entire continents. Beneath your feet, this snow is not merely lying still, it is becoming something more. As each new snowfall presses down upon the last, the layer's compact air is squeezed out. Snow turns to fern, then to solid ice. Over centuries, these layers build into glaciers, rivers of ice so massive they reshape the land itself. They move slowly, almost imperceptibly, yet their power is undeniable. A single glacier can carve valleys, grind mountains, and sculpt the face of the earth like a slow, deliberate hand. You take a step onto the glacier. The surface is firm but whispering. Beneath the frozen crust, you can feel a subtle, deep movement. Glaciers, though they seem still, are always flowing. Their immense weight causes the ice at their base to deform and slide, inching downhill over rock. Some glide smoothly, others creak and crack, sending echoes through the frozen air like distant thunder. To walk upon a glacier is to walk upon time itself in motion. The air here is thin, dry, and achingly clear. Every sound is sharp, the crunch of snow beneath your feet, the soft hiss of wind across ice. There is no bustling life here, no buzzing insects or rustling leaves. Yet the silence is not empty. It is filled with stories, held within each frozen layer. Every winter, snowfall traps tiny bubbles of air, preserving traces of the atmosphere as it was when the snow fell. These bubbles are time capsules, storing whispers of ancient skies. If you could dig deep into this glacier, you would uncover layer upon layer of Earth's history. Scientists do this through ice cores, long cylinders drilled deep into the ice, sometimes stretching back hundreds of thousands of years. Within these cores are clues to ancient climates, concentrations of greenhouse gases, volcanic ash from distant eruptions, pollen grains carried on forgotten winds. Each layer is like a page in a diary, written not with ink, but with snow and time. You run your hand across the icy surface. It feels smooth and steady, like polished glass. Beneath it lies a timeline far older than any human civilization. Long before cities, long before agriculture, snow fell here, silently recording the air's composition, the temperature, the shifting moods of the planet glaciers. Remember what the world itself might forget. In the distance, you see great walls of ice rising like frozen cathedrals. The glacier is not uniform, it is alive with shapes. Crevasses open like deep blue mouths, carved where the ice stretches and fractures seracs. Tall towers of ice lean precariously, catching light in sharp, dazzling shards. The blue that shines within the ice is unlike any blue in the sky or sea. It is pure, deep, born of the way dense ice absorbs light. Standing here, surrounded by this frozen beauty, you feel both small and timeless. Above, the sky is pale and distant, holding the cold sun like a pearl. Winds sweep across the surface, lifting loose snow into swirling veils. These winds are relentless, sculpting ridges and dunes called sastrugi, frozen patterns shaped by air alone. As you walk, your footsteps leave shallow prints that will soon vanish under drifting snow, erased by the glacier's steady breath. Deep within the ice, slow transformations are always underway. Molecules rearrange, pressure builds, and trapped bubbles compress. The glacier thickens, shifts, and slides forward. An ancient migration toward lower lands. Some of this ice will one day reach the ocean's edge, breaking off into floating icebergs that drift into warmer waters. There, they will melt, returning to the cycle as droplets once again. You pause and listen. The wind softens. A low creak echoes from somewhere beneath, like the groan of a sleeping giant. Glaciers speak slowly, but they do speak. In cracks, in shifts, in the patient language of ice moving under its own weight. You imagine the stories locked within, of warm ages and cold ages, of distant volcanic winters, of clear skies before the rise of cities. This is water not as motion, but as memory. As you walk further, the landscape opens wide. The glacier stretches toward the horizon, meeting distant mountains like a frozen river finding its way to sea. You can almost sense its destination, a slow descent toward the edge of the world, where cold meets warmth, where solid will become liquid again. But here, in this moment, it rests in its frozen dream. Snow begins to fall again, soft and soundless. The flakes drift gently, each one unique, each one a tiny architecture of ice. They settle on the glacier's surface, beginning the first chapter of a story that might last for millennia. Perhaps one of these flakes will be buried, compressed, and preserved, holding within it a fragment of today's air, a future memory for those who will come. You tilt your head back, watching the snow fall from the pale sky. The world feels suspended, caught between movement and stillness, between past and future. Here, time is both frozen and flowing. Glaciers move at a pace too slow for daily eyes, yet they shape landscapes on scales no river could match. Far beneath the surface, the glacier's base grinds against rock, carving U-shaped valleys and scattering fine silt called glacial flour. When this flower eventually reaches rivers and oceans, it carries nutrients with it, nourishing distant ecosystems. Even in their frozen state, glaciers are part of life's great circulation, a quiet contributor to the planet's rhythm. The wind picks up again, swirling snow around your feet. The sound is gentle, like distant whispers. You realize you are standing on a living archive, a frozen memory of the world, written in water. And though everything around you seems still, you know that this ice is always dreaming of oceans, of skies, of return. You close your eyes, breathing in the cold. The glacier exhales, slow and ancient. Beneath its surface, time continues to write. And somewhere, far away, the edge of this frozen giant reaches toward the sea. The snow fades. The frozen world begins to soften, as if spring itself is breathing beneath your feet. Far away, ice meets warmth, and droplets are born again. Rain begins to fall, a soft rhythmic patter against the earth. It flows along the surface at first, gathering in rivulets and streams. But not all of it returns to rivers or oceans right away. Some of it chooses a quieter path, slipping silently beneath the ground. You kneel, placing your hand on the damp soil. Beneath the grass, water seeps down through tiny spaces between grains of earth. It threads its way through roots, feeding plants as it passes. Some droplets cling for a while, nourishing seeds and soil life. Others keep going, pulled downward by gravity, disappearing into hidden passageways beneath the surface. You decide to follow. The world above slowly fades as you descend through layers of earth. Light becomes dimmer, then softer, until it is replaced by a cool, gentle darkness. Around you, soil gives way to rock, and rock reveals its fractures and pores, small openings that water has patiently widened over countless years. You are entering a secret labyrinth, one carved not by human hands, but by time, pressure, and the quiet persistence of rain. In this underground world, water moves differently. It doesn't rush like a river or crash like a wave. It creeps, seeps, winds its way slowly through stone. Some passages are so narrow that water molecules pass one by one. Others open into vast caverns where underground lakes shimmer faintly, reflecting your presence like polished mirrors. This is the realm of groundwater, a hidden ocean beneath the surface. It collects in aquifers, layers of porous rock and sediment that can store and transmit water. Some aquifers lie just below the surface, replenished quickly by recent rains. Others rest deep within the earth, ancient and slow to change. Here, water may linger for years, centuries, or even millennia, drifting through stone like a traveler with endless patience. You walk through a chamber where limestone drips slowly from the ceiling. Over ages, each droplet leaves behind a thin crust of minerals, forming stalactites that hang like delicate icicles. Below, stalagmites rise to meet them, built from the same slow rhythm. These formations are not just beautiful, they are evidence of water's persistence, shaping even stone through time. As you move deeper, you notice how the sound of water changes. Above ground, water sings in rivers, splashes in rain, and roars in waves. Down here, it whispers. Faint drip echoes through the cavern. A hidden trickle slides down a rock face. Somewhere far away, you can hear the muted pulse of water moving through unseen cracks. The underground labyrinth is quiet, but never silent. Aquifers are more than hidden reservoirs. They are lifelines. In times of drought, when rivers run low and rain forgets to fall, these underground stores sustain ecosystems, communities, and entire landscapes. Plants with deep roots draw from them. Springs emerge where the water finds its way back to the surface, feeding streams even in the dry season. Many cities and towns rely on aquifers for their drinking water, tapping into this ancient network through wells that reach down like straws into the earth. You pause beside an underground pool. Its surface is still, but beneath, water is always on the move. It flows slowly through layers of sand, gravel, and fractured rock. Unlike surface water, which can change within hours or days, groundwater moves with the patience of geological time. A single drop that enters the ground today might not emerge for decades, traveling silently through the subterranean maze. In some places, this hidden water resurfaces as springs, bubbling up through the earth to feed streams and lakes. In others, it may travel all the way to the sea, entering quietly, unnoticed. Some aquifers stretch beneath entire continents, vast as unseen seas. Others are small, tucked within local stone, nourishing a single valley, but all are connected to the larger cycle, the endless journey of water around the planet. As you walk, the tunnel narrows, guiding you along a slender path carved by persistent flow. You reach out and touch the wall. It's cool and damp, etched with faint mineral patterns, like veins in marble. Every line tells a story of where water has been. Over time, these paths grow, merge, and shift. Groundwater reshapes the land from within, forming caves, sinkholes, and underground rivers. You close your eyes and listen again. The labyrinth breathes. Above you, forests drink from hidden veins. Farther away, wells draw water for villages. Even when the surface seems parched, the earth holds onto this secret reservoir, releasing it slowly, carefully, as if protecting a treasure meant to endure. But this world is fragile. If too much water is taken, the aquifer can shrink, its support for the ground above collapsing. If pollutants seep in, they can spread unseen, carried silently through stone. The labyrinth remembers everything poured into it, whether clean or harmful. Protecting it means protecting not just water, but the hidden foundation upon which life depends. You continue through the labyrinth, guided by the gentle sound of dripping. Eventually, you see a faint light ahead. The passage widens, and you emerge beside a small spring-clear water, bubbles up from the ground, spilling into a shallow pool before wandering off as a newborn stream. You watch as this once hidden water rejoins the surface world, beginning the next leg of its journey. The air here is fresh, carrying the cool scent of stone and rain. You look back toward the tunnel, imagining the vast network still hidden beneath your feet, water moving through unseen channels, patiently sustaining the world above. Though invisible, its presence shapes everything: rivers, forests, fields, cities, and life itself. As twilight settles overhead, you listen to the gentle trickle of the spring. It is the soft voice of the underground labyrinth, rising to the surface to speak once more. You stand at the edge of a small clearing, where silence rests like a soft blanket. All around, the forest hums gently, leaves shiver, insects whisper, roots breathe in the damp air. At first, you don't notice it, but then, through the hush, you hear a sound, a soft trickle, delicate as a sigh. You follow it, stepping carefully between ferns and moss, until you find the source. From the base of a weathered rock, water flows, clear and steady, like a secret finally being spoken. It emerges from the underground labyrinth you explored before, finding its way through layers of stone, pressure, and time. Springs like this are natural outlets where groundwater meets the surface, pushed upward by gravity, pressure, or the slope of the land. Some gush with force, creating streams that leap into the daylight. Others, like this one, simply seep, a quiet return, unnoticed unless you pause to listen. You kneel beside the spring. Its water is cool, untouched by sunlight for years. Tiny bubbles rise to the surface, as if the earth itself is exhaling. Around the opening, moss clings to the rock, soft and emerald green. Delicate plants thrive here, nourished by constant moisture. Even in the driest seasons, this place remains alive, fed by the patient journey of water beneath your feet. You reach out and let the spring water run over your fingers. It is clear, cold, and smooth. Each droplet has traveled far, falling as rain, seeping through soil, winding through dark aquifers. It has moved slowly, filtered by layers of earth, emerging purified and transformed. Springs are the quiet storytellers of this hidden journey, carrying with them memories of distant storms, ancient rocks, and the long passage through time. Not all springs are the same. Some appear at the foot of hills, where water flows along sloping layers of rock until it meets the surface. These are gravity springs, born from the gentle pull of the land. Others rise under pressure, forced upward through cracks in rock. These are artesian springs, often stronger, bubbling up with quiet determination. Some springs form in deserts, creating oases where life gathers gratefully around their rare gift. Others emerge in cold mountains, where melting snow feeds underground streams that find daylight again. You imagine the path beneath this forest, the network of veins through which water travels. Some paths are wide, like secret rivers under stone. Others are narrow, like threads weaving through sand and gravel. Every twist, every pore, shapes how the spring flows here and now. Its rhythm depends on the story beneath. The water flows away from the spring, gathering into a thin, clear stream. You follow it as it winds between rocks and roots, carving its way through the forest floor. At first, it is shy, a gentle trickle. But as it moves downhill, more seeps join it from hidden fissures, and the stream grows stronger. Tiny fish dart between shadows, water insects glide across the surface, and the forest seems to lean closer, listening. Springs are more than just sources of streams. They are gateways between worlds. Underground, water lives in darkness, moving slowly through hidden places. Above ground, it joins sunlight, air, and the living tapestry of the surface. Each spring is a point of reunion where earth and sky meet, where the patient work below returns to nourish what grows above. You pause at a bend in the stream where the water pools for a moment. Ferns drape over the edge like green curtains. The air here is cooler, touched by the breath of the spring. You close your eyes, and for a moment, you can feel both worlds, the stillness below and the flowing above, meeting in quiet harmony. Across the planet, springs shape landscapes and lives in subtle ways. Some create wetlands, where water spreads gently across flat ground, forming habitats rich with birds, insects, and plants. Others become headwaters, the beginnings of rivers that will travel hundreds of kilometers to the sea. Ancient civilizations built settlements near springs, relying on their steady flow for drinking water, agriculture, and spiritual rituals. Many springs were considered sacred, seen as places where the earth itself spoke softly to those who listened. Yet springs are delicate. Their flow depends on the balance underground. If aquifers are drained too quickly, springs can falter, their voices fading until only silence remains. If the land above is polluted, the contamination can seep downward, traveling invisibly through rock, emerging again where springs rise. Protecting springs means protecting the entire hidden journey behind them, the rain, the soil, the underground labyrinth. You continue following the stream as it gathers strength. It flows over stones, each ripple catching fragments of light that filter through the trees. The air fills with the soft music of moving water. The spring's quiet beginning has become a gentle song, threading its way through the forest like a memory returning to the world. Eventually, the trees thin and the stream meets a larger flow, a river. Here, the spring's water merges with countless other paths, becoming part of something wider. It no longer moves alone. It joins a collective journey toward distant valleys, lakes, and oceans. But you remember where it began, in that mossy hollow, emerging like a secret. You turn back for a moment, looking toward the forest. You know that beneath its roots, more springs wait, some already flowing, others still finding their way. The underground world is always at work, slowly shaping the surface in ways that most never see. As twilight settles, the river glimmers, carrying the spring's gift onward. The journey that began as a raindrop disappeared underground and returned through a quiet opening now continues, restless, patient, endless. And as you listen to the merging waters, a question rises softly, like mist at dawn. Where will the flow lead next? You stand at the river's edge, watching water glide past like liquid glass. The spring's trickle has grown into something wider, calm but full of strength. As the light fades, a soft breeze carries the scent of leaves, wet earth, and distant rain. Somewhere in this quiet evening, a truth lingers. Water doesn't only move across landscapes, it moves through life itself. You close your eyes, and for a moment, the river's song shifts. The sound becomes the pulse of veins, the rustle of leaves, the hush of breath. When you open your eyes again, the world has changed around you. You are now standing within a forest, dense and alive. Tall trees rise above like silent guardians, their branches interlaced to form a gentle canopy. Around you, roots dive deep, leaves reach upward, and everything hums with quiet work. Hidden beneath this stillness, water is on the move, silent, patient, and essential. You kneel beside a tree and place your hand on its bark. It feels rough, ancient, but beneath its surface flows a delicate network. From the roots upward, water travels through xylem vessels, pulled by invisible forces. It rises from the damp soil, climbing against gravity, reaching every leaf high in the canopy. This pull is not powered by pumps or machines, but by transpiration, the subtle evaporation of water from leaves. As molecules escape into the air, they tug at the chain of water below, drawing more upward in a continuous thread. It is a quiet ascent that happens every second, keeping the tree alive. You step closer to a leaf and look at it carefully. Dew sparkles at its edges. Inside, cells brim with water, their shapes held firm by turgor pressure, the gentle outward push of water against cell walls. Without this, the leaf would wilt like fabric without support. Water is not just flowing through, it is holding everything together, giving form to life's fragile architecture. A breeze rustles the canopy, and you follow a droplet's imagined journey, entering through a root hair in the soil, moving cell to cell, joining a column of flow that climbs through the trunk, arriving at a leaf, and finally evaporating into the sky. Each step is silent but vital. Through this endless cycle, water nourishes, lifts, and connects every part of the tree. But the forest is not alone in this reliance. You step forward, and suddenly the world shifts again. The trees blur into the background, and before you stands an animal, a deer, calm and alert, its breath visible in the cool air. Inside its body, water flows too. It moves through blood, bathing cells, carrying oxygen, nutrients, and waste in an intricate circulation. Blood is mostly water, a fluid highway that connects distant tissues, cooling the body, cushioning organs, and maintaining balance. You imagine shrinking down, entering the bloodstream like a tiny traveler. Around you, cells drift like boats. Red blood cells carry oxygen, white blood cells patrol, platelets drift, ready to mend. All of it moves within plasma, the watery medium that makes life's traffic possible. Without water, the body would be a landscape without roads, nutrients stranded, signals unable to move. Even deeper, inside each cell, water creates the stage upon which life's molecular play unfolds. Proteins fold within watery surroundings. DNA floats in the nucleus, immersed in fluid that allows transcription and translation to occur. Chemical reactions happen because water makes them possible, dissolving, transporting, stabilizing. It is the unseen partner in every spark of life. You step back into the forest, where everything, tree, deer, insect, mushroom, shares this reliance. Water doesn't just move through individuals, it connects them into ecosystems. When the deer drinks from the stream, it carries that water within itself, releasing it later through breath, sweat, or waste. When leaves release vapor, they moisten the air, affecting clouds and rain patterns. When fungi thread through soil, they help water reach roots that couldn't find it alone. Life is stitched together by the quiet flow of water, endlessly shared, endlessly transformed. You wander deeper into the forest, noticing small details. A spider's web glistening with dew, a fern unfurling after rainfall, a bird dipping its beak into a puddle. Each of these moments is sustained by water's silent presence. You bend down and see a tiny stream trickling between stones, feeding a cluster of moss. The moss absorbs water through its surface, with no roots to reach below. Even the simplest life forms have found ways to weave water into their existence. As twilight deepens, you notice how temperature shifts. Warm air rises from the ground, carrying moisture upward. Leaves release vapor slowly, forming an invisible mist that drifts above the canopy. This process, evapotranspiration, is the combined breath of plants and soil. It shapes local weather, cools the air, and influences when and where clouds form. What seems like a forest simply existing is actually a vast breathing network, water moving up, out, and back again. Now the scene shifts once more. You find yourself inside a single drop of water, magnified to the scale of molecules. Here, water is not just a carrier, it is a community. Molecules link through hydrogen bonds, forming and reforming like dancers, changing partners. This dynamic structure gives water its unique properties, its ability to store heat, dissolve substances, and resist sudden temperature changes. It is these molecular whispers that make all the grand stories above possible. You drift out of the droplet and return to the forest edge. The river flows nearby, catching the moonlight now. Everything feels connected. River, tree, deer, air, soil, cell. The same water that rose through xylem may one day flow through veins. The droplet evaporating from a leaf may fall as rain thousands of kilometers away. The molecules swirling in the river may one day sit inside a seed, waiting to awaken life. Water doesn't just support life, it is woven into its identity. It shapes bodies, behavior, and entire ecosystems. Its flow defines migrations, seasons, and survival. It is both stage and story, silent but essential, unseen but everywhere. You walk along the riverbank, feeling the cool night settle around you. The stars above reflect on the water's surface, and for a moment, you imagine those reflections mirrored inside every living thing, each a small, shimmering echo of the same cycle.
As you stand there, a gentle question rises within you, as quiet as the stream. Where does this shared journey lead when life itself becomes part of water's endless path?
Night wraps around you like a soft cloak. The river nearby whispers to itself, reflecting starlight in shifting ripples. You tilt your head back, gazing at the stars scattered across the sky. For a moment, the world feels still, as if holding its breath. In that quiet, a thought takes shape. This water, the river, the dew, the blood in your veins, where did it truly begin? The stars above seem to shimmer more brightly. Time loosens its grip. The forest, the river, even your body dissolve into mist. You drift backward, beyond centuries, beyond millennia, sliding along the thread of water's story. The world reforms around you, but it is not the world you know. You stand on the surface of a young Earth over 4 billion years ago. The sky is a deep, swirling orange-grey. Volcanoes roar in the distance, their breaths filling the air with ash and steam. Lightning cracks across the sky like veins of fire. There are no trees, no rivers, no animals, only rock, heat, and storm. The air itself is heavy with water vapor, released from the planet's molten interior. In these early ages, Earth is cooling after its violent birth. The crust hardens, fissures open, and gases pour out in thick plumes. Among them, water, freed from the mantle where it once lay trapped. You look up. The sky churns with dark clouds, pregnant with the first rains. Then it begins. Rain falls, not as gentle drops, but as endless torrents. Sheets of water crash onto hot rock, turning instantly into steam, rising and falling again in a relentless cycle. This great rain lasts for thousands of years. Slowly, the planet cools enough for water to remain on the surface. Steam condenses into droplets. Droplets join into streams. Streams merge into basins. The first oceans are born, filling craters and valleys with shimmering, primordial blue. You walk to the edge of this ancient sea. The air smells of minerals and fire. Waves lap against the rocky shore, carving new paths. These waters are unlike modern oceans, hot, acidic, stirred by constant meteor impacts. Yet in their restless depths, the stage is being set for life. Water is already shaping the land, softening stone, dissolving minerals, carrying them into the deep. These ingredients will one day become part of cells, bones, forests, and rivers.
But Earth's water story reaches even farther back, beyond the planet itself.
The scene shifts again. You rise upward, leaving the young Earth behind, drifting through the newborn solar system. Asteroids and comets arc through space like glowing embers. Some crash into Earth, delivering icy cargo from the outer reaches. These impacts bring additional water, enriching the young oceans. Comets, made largely of ice and dust, are like frozen messengers from distant realms. Their collisions are violent, but their gifts are lasting. You follow one such comet as it approaches the planet. Its tail stretches behind like a glowing ribbon, sunlight turning ice to vapor. It strikes Earth, and the explosion is immense, reshaping coastlines, releasing water that hisses and steams upon impact. Over countless impacts, this cosmic delivery builds a reservoir far vaster than any storm could create alone. Yet even comets are not the ultimate beginning. You travel farther, beyond the solar system, into the quiet darkness between stars. Here, in vast molecular clouds, water takes shape at the cosmic scale. Within these cold, dense clouds of gas and dust, hydrogen and oxygen atoms meet on the surfaces of tiny grains. They bond, forming water molecules that freeze into ice, coating the grains like delicate frost. These interstellar ices float for millions of years, drifting through space until gravity gathers them into new stars and planets. You hover within one such stellar nursery, watching stars ignite like slow flares. Around them, disks of dust and gas swirl. Water is present here, in both ice and vapor, woven into the very fabric of new worlds. As planets form, they inherit this water, locking some deep inside, releasing some to their surfaces, holding some in their atmospheres. Water is not an afterthought. It is part of the universe's original architecture. You drift toward the outer planets, where icy moons orbit in cold darkness. On Europa, Jupiter's moon, a crust of ice, hides a deep global ocean beneath geysers erupt through cracks, spraying plumes of water vapor into space. On Enceladus, a tiny moon of Saturn. Similar plumes rise like frozen fountains, feeding Saturn's rings with icy particles. These worlds remind you that Earth is not unique. Oceans exist in places sunlight never touches, warmed by tidal forces and hidden heat. Water, it seems, finds a way to persist almost everywhere. Beyond even these moons, comets glide silently. In their frozen hearts lies ancient water, older than the sun itself, formed in interstellar space billions of years ago. Some of these molecules may have traveled across galaxies, passing through multiple star systems before arriving here. You realize that the water on your fingertips, in rivers, in clouds, may carry a memory far older than Earth. It may have been part of distant stars, part of comets long vanished, part of other worlds long lost. The cosmos stretches around you, endless and dark, but it is not empty. It hums with quiet processes, atoms meeting, molecules forming, stars igniting, planets coalescing. Water weaves through all of it, a cosmic traveler, bridging epochs and distances that defy imagination. Its story is both intimate and infinite. You return to early Earth. The storms have eased. Vast oceans glimmer beneath a dim, young sun. The sky is still heavy, but calmer now. Over time, these waters will cradle the first living cells, shaping continents, sculpting climates, and eventually flowing through the veins of forests and animals. But in this moment, they are simply there, ancient, restless, waiting. You stand at the shore, feeling the spray on your face. It is salty, primordial, full of potential. You realize that every raindrop that falls today is part of this unbroken chain. A chain that stretches back to volcanic plumes, to comets, to interstellar clouds. The water on Earth is not new. It is ancient, recycled through time, passed between rocks, oceans and skies, between planets and stars. Above you, the stars still shine. Somewhere, in distant planetary systems, similar processes unfold. New rains fall on young worlds. Comets bring ice to barren ground. Stellar nurseries knit molecules together in the cold. Water is not Earth's secret. It is the universe's quiet refrain. As you gaze upward, feeling the cool air on your skin, a question rises softly. If water has traveled across time and space to shape Earth, where else might it be telling its story right now? Night slowly fades into a gentle dawn. A pale light touches the horizon, brushing clouds with soft gold. You find yourself standing on a high ridge, overlooking oceans, rivers, mountains, and skies. From here, the world seems vast yet connected, every element part of a greater design. For a long time, you've followed water on its intimate journeys, through raindrops and rivers, clouds and glaciers, roots and stars. Now you take a step back. You breathe in the crisp morning air and see the whole picture. Below, The ocean lies like a great mirror, catching the light of the rising sun. Wisps of vapor rise silently from its surface. They twist and curl upward, like invisible dancers ascending into the sky. This is where so much begins, not with a storm or a river, but with the quiet warmth of sunlight touching water. The sun's energy loosens bonds between liquid molecules. Some break free, becoming invisible water vapor, joining the air. From lakes, rivers, soil, and even the breath of animals and the leaves of forests, vapor streams upward. This is evaporation and transpiration, subtle yet constant. Around the world, trillions of molecules rise each second, carried into the atmosphere. High above, condensation begins. Air cools, and vapor transforms into droplets, clinging to dust and salt particles. Clouds form, soft, white gatherings that drift and expand,
holding moisture like secret keepers. You drift upward with them, weightless. Inside, droplets collide, merge, and grow heavy. When they can no longer stay aloft, they fall as rain and snow or hail, each a different form of water returning home.
Far below, raindrops kiss the surface of mountains. Some run down slopes, joining streams and carving new paths into stone. Some seep into the soil, disappearing underground, feeding aquifers hidden beneath fields and forests. Some freeze upon mountaintops, locking themselves in glaciers and snowfields, where they may rest for centuries before melting again. You follow a single droplet as it tumbles down a rocky slope, joins a clear stream, then a river winding through valleys. It flows past forests, through canyons, alongside villages, carrying minerals and memories. Eventually, it reaches the ocean once more, merging with the vastness it once left behind. From evaporation to condensation, from precipitation to flow and freeze and return, you witness the hydrological cycle, the timeless loop that has shaped Earth for billions of years. This cycle has no true beginning or end. It is a rhythm, an ongoing conversation between sky and sea, land and air, heat and cold. Every droplet participates in this dance of transformation, moving through forms without ever being destroyed. You close your eyes and listen. At first, you hear the breeze, gentle and constant. Then, beneath it, something deeper, a kind of pulse. It is the heartbeat of the water cycle, slow and steady, as ancient as the planet itself. Rainfall patters softly in one corner of the world. Rivers rush in another. Glaciers crack and groan in the cold. Waves lap against distant shores. All these sounds are part of the same great orchestra, playing in harmony across continents and centuries. You imagine tracing the journey of a single molecule of water. Perhaps it once floated as vapor above a tropical sea, fell as rain upon a distant forest, seeped underground, and emerged centuries later as a spring. Perhaps it froze in a polar ice cap, locked away for millennia before breaking free and flowing into the ocean. Perhaps it was drawn into a leaf, travelled through the veins of a tree, and returned to the sky through a tiny pore.
Each droplet's path is unique, but the pattern is universal. Rising, gathering, falling, flowing, freezing, melting, again and again.
As you watch, seasons pass like turning pages. Spring arrives with rushing streams and thawing ice. Water wakes from its frozen rest, cascading down slopes, filling rivers with new energy. In summer, heat returns and evaporation intensifies. Storm clouds build in the afternoons, releasing sudden rains that soak fields and forests. Autumn comes with quiet misty mornings and slower flows. Leaves fall, covering damp ground, and water seeps deeper into the earth. In winter, snow blankets the land. Rivers slow, some freeze, and the world grows still. Yet beneath the surface, water continues its hidden work, moving through soils, roots, and rock. Through each season, the cycle never stops. It adapts, shifts, and continues, steady and sure. You rise higher still, viewing Earth from far above. From space, the planet is a blue jewel, swirling with clouds, oceans, and life. No other planet in the solar system displays such a vibrant cycle. Here, water flows freely across all three of its states: liquid, vapor, and ice, shaping everything it touches. It smooths mountains, carries nutrients, moderates climate, and sustains every form of life. It links continents through the atmosphere, carries warmth across oceans through currents, and fuels storms that renew the land. The water cycle is not just a scientific process. It is the planet's breathing, its way of balancing energy and motion. Without it, Earth would be silent and still. No rivers, no rain, no forests, no heartbeat.
And then you think of your own connection.
Every glass of water you drink once travelled this ancient loop. It may have been rain falling on a distant mountain centuries ago. It may have passed through glaciers, rivers, roots, clouds. Each sip is a reunion with a traveller who has wandered the world. Your breath releases vapour into the air. Your body is mostly water, participating quietly in the same planetary rhythm. You are not outside this cycle. You are within it, a part of the dance. The sun climbs higher, warming the landscape. A breeze carries the smell of wet earth and salt. You watch as droplets rise from the sea again, as clouds gather on the horizon, as distant rain begins to fall. The cycle continues, as it always has. It does not ask for attention. It does not seek applause. It simply moves, patient, eternal, steady. As the scene fades, the pulse of the planet lingers. You feel its rhythm in your heartbeat, in the breath you take, in the quiet trickle of water beneath the soil. The cycle's secret is simple but profound. Nothing is lost, only transformed. Every droplet is part of something larger, something timeless. And in this endless loop, the story of water and of life goes on. Night spreads slowly, like a deep blue cloth unfurling across the sky. Stars blink awake one by one, their light reflecting faintly on quiet waters below. The air cools, carrying the scent of earth and salt, and the world seems to exhale. You stand once more at the edge of the ocean, where the land meets the vast unknown. The tide whispers against the shore in slow, patient breaths. Waves roll in, then slide back, each one a reminder of how the planet never truly rests. Above you, clouds thin into wisps, almost transparent against the darkening sky. A single droplet rises from the surface of the sea. You follow it as it lifts into the night air, weightless, unseen, yet full of memory. This tiny molecule has travelled farther than most living things ever will. It has fallen as rain on distant mountains, flowed through rivers, sunk into stone, frozen in silence, and returned once more to the sea. And now, under the cool gaze of the stars, it begins its journey again. The night wind moves softly across the water. It brushes your skin like a gentle hand, carrying with it countless invisible travellers, molecules of water vapour drifting upward, weaving into the fabric of the sky. You imagine their paths as glowing threads, rising and twisting together, forming an invisible tapestry above you. Some of these threads will meet high in the upper atmosphere. There, cold air will gather them into clusters, creating new clouds that will drift across continents. Some will rise higher still, freezing into ice crystals that shimmer in moonlight, becoming part of cirrus clouds that stretch like thin veils. Others will linger low, forming gentle fog that settles over fields and forests before dawn. Each molecule moves without haste, guided by temperature, wind, and gravity, forces as old as the earth itself. There is no beginning or end here, only transformation. What was once ocean becomes sky. What was sky becomes rain. What was rain becomes river. What was river becomes sea. The cycle continues, quietly, eternally. You walk along the shore, your footsteps sinking into damp sand. With each step, you feel the earth's hidden rhythms beneath you. Far below the surface, groundwater moves slowly through labyrinths of rock. Above, winds carry moisture across deserts, mountains, and plains. In the distance, lightning flickers inside a growing storm cloud, silent for now, but gathering strength. Somewhere across the globe, snow is falling in steady, silent layers. Elsewhere, monsoon rains are flooding fields, replenishing soil for the coming season. Glaciers are inching forward, carving valleys with their patient weight. Rivers are winding through forests under the gaze of nocturnal creatures. Water moves through every scene, linking them in a story far greater than any single place or moment. You stop and listen. The night hums with a quiet pulse. the soundless rhythm of water's eternal journey. It is not a song you hear with your ears, but one you feel in your chest, steady and soft, like a lullaby carried on the wind. You close your eyes. Behind your eyelids, the world becomes a map of flows. You see vapor rising in shimmering streams, droplets coalescing in mid-air, rain falling in delicate sheets. You see rivers glowing like silver veins across continents, lakes reflecting the starlit sky like polished mirrors, oceans swirling in vast gyres. The water cycle, from this perspective, is a single, breathing entity. It expands and contracts, evaporates and condenses, flows and freezes, beats and pauses, like the lungs of the planet. Each part relies on the other. Remove the warmth of the sun and evaporation ceases. Halt the winds and clouds no longer travel. Stop the rain and rivers fade away. But together they sustain the balance that makes Earth alive. You imagine yourself shrinking to the size of a single molecule, caught within this grand motion. There is no fear in this thought. Instead, there is peace. You drift upward, weightless, carried by air currents into the night sky. Around you, countless other molecules rise too, their paths crisscrossing like fireflies in slow motion. There is no destination, only the joy of movement, of belonging to something endless. Far above the world, in the quiet upper atmosphere, you see the curve of the earth. Oceans shine faintly under moonlight. Storm systems spiral gently, their edges feathering out into darkness. The planet seems alive, breathing, turning, pulsing, and threading through every part of it is water in all its forms. On the poles, glaciers reflect starlight. In the tropics, clouds gather in thick clusters. Over deserts, thin streams of vapor drift unseen. The hydrosphere wraps around the earth like a living skin, touching every ecosystem, every climate, every life form. You realize that what you've been following is not just water. It's the planet's memory. Each molecule carries with it the imprint of where it has been, the pressure of deep stone, the chill of polar nights, the warmth of tropical seas, the scent of pine forests, the taste of mineral-rich springs. To follow water is to read Earth's diary, written not in ink, but in movement. You return slowly toward the ground, descending with the cool night air. The tide continues to move, whispering secrets as it laps the shore. A faint mist begins to rise from the sand, glowing softly in the moonlight. You reach out your hand, and droplets settle on your skin, tiny, cold, alive. Somewhere inland, a spring burbles quietly in the dark, releasing ancient water into a flowing stream. Somewhere in a high valley, snowflakes gather on silent peaks. Somewhere in the clouds, a droplet grows heavy, preparing to fall. Everywhere, the journey continues. You lie down on the sand, looking up at the stars. The night feels infinite, but comforting. The longer you watch, the more you sense the subtle weaving of water through every moment of existence. It is in the air you breathe, the ground beneath you, the stars that guide the winds, the oceans that cradle life. It is in you, flowing in your veins, cooling your skin, leaving with each breath as invisible mist. The world grows quieter. Waves soften. Clouds drift apart, revealing a wide expanse of sky. You feel your heartbeat slow, sinking with the rhythm of the tide. The journey of water is eternal, but it is not hurried. It moves in its own time, through endless cycles that stretch far beyond a single human life. Empires rise and fall, forests grow and fade, species appear and vanish. But water remains, flowing through it all. As your eyes grow heavy, you think of the droplet you followed from the very beginning, from the moment it formed in a cloud, trembled, and fell to the earth, to rivers, lakes, oceans, and sky, to glaciers, roots, storms, and springs. Its journey was never truly about arrival. It was about continuity, an unbroken thread woven through time. You exhale slowly. Your breath mixes with the cool air, releasing vapor that joins the night sky. In that moment, you too become part of the story, not just an observer, but a participant in this endless cycle.
The tide reaches forward, touches your toes, and retreats again. Stars shimmer like droplets caught in motion, and the droplet rises once more, dissolving into mist, vanishing into the vastness above.
Somewhere, unseen, the journey begins again. The night has deepened. The last droplet has risen into the darkness, joining the endless rhythm that has guided this world since its beginning. You lie still, breathing slowly, feeling the echo of water's journey within your own heartbeat. Oceans, clouds, rivers, ice, they are all part of one great, silent dance, and you too belong to it. Every breath you take, every sip you drink, is part of the same eternal flow. The story does not end here. It continues in the mist above mountains, in raindrops waiting to fall, in springs hidden beneath the ground. As your eyes grow heavy, let the rhythm of the earth cradle you. The journey goes on, softly, endlessly, forever. Sleep well, traveler. The water will keep flowing.